What is going on, everybody? Happy 2023, Happy New Year, and welcome back to the greatest show on planet Earth, at least in the MedTech world. It's Digital Medical Sales Live. I'm your host, Omar Khatib, and of course, welcome back to all the fantastic students. I'm really excited to see that we have some new students who joined the program. And of course, this wouldn't be the normal show if I didn't just take a second to make sure that the audio is working. And for some reason, can someone please confirm to me on LinkedIn, is there a doubling of my voice? See, this is the thing, is that LinkedIn is a billion-dollar company and they still don't have their live feature set up correctly. So let's just make sure that that's working. Nope. That's just, yep. So it looks like we're good to go. So anyways, and out of just my own paranoia, I'm going to just double check one more time on my desktop. For those of you who are new students, welcome. We do this every single week. We stream it live to LinkedIn because some people are on the road. They prefer to see it on LinkedIn. And we want to provide some value to the people who, let's say, didn't qualify for the program, couldn't get in. I normally don't take those questions. It's mainly focused on students, but we try and provide some value no matter what. So let me just make sure. New students, welcome. Whoop, that is really loud. So it looks like we're good there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the questions. And of course, Caleb Meyer saying no doubling of voice, but a little static sound in the background. Yeah, I don't know what I can do about that. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to figure that out later. Yeah, we're gonna have to try and figure that out later. But I think I might be able to just try one quick fix. Let's see. We're gonna see if that worked. Okay. For those who are watching on Zoom, sorry guys, at some point like the technical difficulties will go away, but sometimes it does happen. For those who are watching on Zoom, you guys hear me okay? Is there any static? If you guys can just comment in the chat. For those who are watching, let's see. At some point, like oh, I think we fixed the static problem. Well, whatever I just did, my view numbers just doubled, so I guess that's good, right? Okay, so let's just double check that, and we need to just jump into things. Yes, Caleb, money, awesome, big shout out. All right, so Caleb Meyer, I don't know what part of the industry you are in, but give Caleb a follow because he just saved the day because he helped me figure out the static problem. All right, let's get into it. All right, it's 2023. We got some great questions, but most importantly, okay, the one thing I want to remind everybody, and actually let me bring up everybody's favorite co-host, the whiteboard. All right. As an entrepreneur myself, I'm actually going through a process of reviewing my year, planning for this year, right? I was going to do that a week ago, but I got sick with COVID. And so, those kind of derail my plans. So I've been spending this entire week really prioritizing the hell out of reviewing last year and planning for this year. And I want to give you two simple exercises. All right. There's a lot of details to these exercises, but I figured make it as simple as possible that I want you guys to do, whether you're a sales rep or a VP of sales or a CEO, right? I want you to do these two things. And the temptation, it's, human beings in general, we don't like to plan. And so there's a temptation that like the new year started, you want to get started tactically with things. Just really prioritize it. Prioritize doing this week, okay? Number one, all right? Let me put this, 2023. All right, let's start with the first thing. And this is going to sound very funny, but what I want you to do, let me step over here, is for your 2022, I want you to write yourself a love letter. Okay? This is going to sound crazy, but for 2022, a lot of times when it comes to our journaling, our reviews and everything, we're doing it in the moment, so it's kind of sporadic. It's on rare occasion that we can go back in time based on what's happened in the year and communicate to ourselves. So pretend that you're sending yourself literally a love letter back to January 1st where you outline the entire year. And think of it like a movie. Even if you had a terrible year, you need to reframe it as something positive, okay? And so for me, I did this exercise and started writing. And just to show you, for me, I recommend typing this out because when I started writing this, my hand started to get tired. This literally was about 5 pages where I documented and I went through my calendar. What were the wins that I got in 2022? Right? What are some issues I ran into? Where are some areas of improvement? So I was literally writing to myself, explaining what went well that year and what advice I had. Right? And again, take it from a very positive approach because part of this is an identity thing. You don't want to focus on self-actualizing negative things. Focus on the good things that happened last year. And of course, the bad things that have happened, reframe them as, hey, here's some obstacles you ran into that you struggled with. Here's what you probably could have done better. So that's going to be your 2022 review because you want to review like what went well, what hypotheses did we test that we were right about, wrong about, right? Once you have that, now let's look forward into 2023. So for 2023, again, your companies are going to have your own KPIs or OKRs or however you structure them. For yourself, there's this concept called a BHAG. For those of you who are in my program, go into the live call library and you'll see there's one call we did specifically about the BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And I actually have a spreadsheet for you to use. So it's in that call library. So go back in there and look at it. Your big, hairy, audacious goal. Pick one thing that if you accomplish that this year, like something really big that maybe even overwhelms you to think like, how am I going to accomplish that? That's the one thing. So perfect example for me, I'll just share mine. I'm very open about it, is my big, hairy, audacious goal is what would it take for me to have my business making over $1 million a month? A month. So that's a very overwhelming thing for me to think about, right? Because I have a small business and everything. So to think like, what decisions do I have to do to scale? What do I do to literally be producing the cash flow of over $1 million a month, right? And once you have that big, hairy, audacious goal, maybe for you, let's say you're a VP, your thing is, how do we get our if last year your revenue was, let's say $2 million, how do you get to $20 million this year, 30 million? Like think of something really big and audacious. From there, I want you to list out 19 projects, big projects that are going to help you accomplish this big, hairy, audacious goal. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back to my example of producing over $1 million a month, right? Some things that come to mind, projects, is developing an enterprise package, right? For me to sell to companies and sales teams, right? Having a very robust Instagram and Facebook content strategy. There's how do I make the current products I have in the programs, how do I make them even better? How do I help people get results faster, right? So there's 19 things that I listed, okay? And 19 is this arbitrary number, right? Of those 19 projects that you list that would help accomplish this thing, narrow it down to 3 things that you're going to do for this quarter. So for the next 12 weeks. And of those 3 things, if you had to place your bet on one thing, that's what I want you to focus on. That's what you need to prioritize. Okay. This, my friends, this is how you get stuff done. Okay. You literally thinking is the most important kind of thinking. You have to sit down and map this out. And I'm going to pick on the salespeople. Salespeople are not good about doing this. Very much about being action-oriented, move and move and move. But you got to sit down and you got to plan things out. This is, sales, in my opinion, sales is like going to war. All of you are soldiers. You're shipping out to sea. You're by yourself. Before you go out into the wilderness, you got to sit down and think through, what is the plan of action here? You cannot rely on your company to do this. If your company does it, great. You need to sit down like a samurai, like a warrior, and list out, hey, what do I got to do to make this year amazing? Okay, what are the 19 things that I got to get done to make that happen? And start narrowing it down. At the end of the day, my friends, as I've constantly lectured you, you can have business results that you're trying to accomplish. Under those business results, you have specific objectives that you're trying to hit. But at the end of the day, the only thing that you have control over as a salesperson, the only thing that I have control over as an entrepreneur is daily activities. That's it. Fall in love with the process, fall in love with activities, and then you can hit those things. So now that I got that out of the way, let's jump into the questions. Okay. So for the questions, and for those who are on Zoom, because I can't pull up a banner, I'm going to drop the question into the chat. So question number 1 is, what is the key to make sure that if someone searches for your LinkedIn profile on Google and they are not logged into LinkedIn at the same time, that the profile surfaces? Okay. So this is a very important concept to have buttoned up. Let me move this out of the way. And the reason why is because if you think about how the human brain works, the human brain was not evolved to understand the differences between the digital world that I'm communicating through right now and the physical world I'm in. It's all the same thing. Similarly, the B2B buyer that you're trying to sell to, CEO of a hospital, surgeon, right? When they're a consumer at home and they're using this to buy something from Amazon, they go and look up a review, etc. It's going to be the same thing when they're trying to decide, should I meet with this person or not? So when they Google your name, right, they're going to try and see what comes up on you. Okay. So a lot of times they'll go straight to LinkedIn and look you up there, or they'll go straight to Google. What you want to happen is that whether they're logged into LinkedIn or not, that everything is public. So the way that you do that, okay, is on LinkedIn. If you go to under what's it called? Under me, if you click the icon that says me, and you look under there, you go to settings and privacy. Okay. Under settings and privacy, there's something called visibility. Go to visibility, and here's the answer. Turn everything on. Allow people to see your connections, allow people to see your public profile, everything. The only thing I would say that maybe you don't want to have available is some of your personal information. For me, like, I don't know about you, but I get blown up by SaaS vendors all the time. I don't have my cell phone on there, right? I also, for my email, I put my work email, right? That's the only thing that I recommend, okay? Now, and by the way, for the students, for the people who are watching on Zoom, keep in mind, the new people, if you want to ask a question, you can either type it into the Q&A box, or what I prefer, raise your hand, click the hand raise emoji, and I'm going to just unlock your audio and you can ask the question live and have a conversation with me. Okay. Now, next question. What are your thoughts on how to plan for which conferences to attend? I love this question because conferences is literally what I built my career on a long time ago. So our industry runs on conferences, okay? The people who say, oh, conferences are dead are idiots, okay? The reason why is that, I don't know about you, I'm zoomed out. Like, I can't attend any more virtual conferences. There is a mastermind event. There's a group of entrepreneurs that I'm part of a mastermind in, and every quarter they have a meetup at the main guy's, big beautiful mansion down in Miami. That's a far trip for me. I fly to it every time. You know why? There's a huge difference between virtual and in person, right? Virtual, yeah, I can watch it from my home and everything, but I lose the main purpose of these events, which is the interaction with your peers, right? So conferences have come back. People want to go there in person. However, the key that's changed with conferences is that, number one, not everybody goes to the big annual conference, okay? So, let's say in the world of orthopedics, it's AAOS, or in spine, it's NASS. I think in urology, it's AUA, right? Those are still very important conferences. You have to be there, right? You don't necessarily have to have a booth. It does help to have one. You don't have to necessarily have a booth there, but you got to be there somehow, right? The other thing is to ask yourself, our customer segments, what smaller conferences, regional conferences are they attending, right? So in the world of spine, there's CSRS, which is cervical, right? Or SRS, right? So asking yourself these small regional ones, which ones are good? The smaller regional ones, you don't necessarily have to have a booth there as well, you know? And so in my opinion, the best way to answer the question of which conference should you attend, you have to see which conference is are we going to have the most amount of our own customers at, right? And this is, I'm assuming you're going to be getting a booth. So number one, figure out which conferences your most of your customers are going to, right? The reason why that happens is, let's say you look at all your conferences and then realize that most of your customers are attending, let's say, this one big conference, right? There's 5 of your customers are going to be there. That's the one you want to have a booth at, because then you can talk to each of your customers and say, hey, do you mind for 1 hour, or 30 minutes during this time, you come and spend time with us at the booth, and we might have you speak with some prospective customers to share your experience. And they'll say yes, right? They should, if they're good customers, right? I would prioritize that conference. So based on, again, which conference do you know most prospective customers are going to be going to, and which conference do you have like actual customers at, right? Conferences usually have a bad ROI in them unless you plan it this way, okay? So that's how I would decide. The other thing is that in terms of spending the money on the booth, look, booth costs are expensive. Your average booth is going to run anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 for a 10 by 10 booth, right? Not to mention the booth build. I recommend working with any number of exhibit companies that are out there. The one that I use was Zarnowski. They are pricier, but they do a damn good job. Have that exhibit company make a reusable booth, the ones that can travel with you, okay? The big thing about booths that people often overlook, you can have a small. When I was at Missouri, we had one of the best booths in the industry. Okay, not because it was the largest, is because we utilized one key source: lighting. Lighting makes everything. I mean, look, here I am on video. If I just turn off these lights, do you see how big of a difference that makes? This is literally what I see in our industry all the time with booths. Okay, here's what one light does. Better. Here's what a second light does. Amazing. It's the same thing with your product. So what I would do is invest in a smaller size booth in a strategically placed area, and really invest more money on the lighting, right? Including like neon, LED lights to light the product up, LED lights for the booth, because you want people to be attracted to it. You want it to catch the eye, right? You want to highlight your technology almost like a luxury good, okay? So, sorry, that's a whole other conversation. As you can tell, I'm really big on booth strategy, right? But in terms of the conferences, again, which conference do we have a lot of customers going to? Which conference is there a lot of our prospects? And the other thing is, conferences are not just to go and sell at. You also should be using your conferences to gain a lot of content, right? Market research. So when you pay money for those conferences, you have a badge to go into these lectures. So you need to have a very specific plan. If you're going to a conference with 2 or 3 people, I don't care if one of those people is a CEO. Every single person has to be scheduled to go into a certain amount of sessions that you guys pick, and getting some information. Get information on the session that you guys can write about and inform your decisions on the product side. Get pictures of the presenter so you can post it on social media, tag that presenter. Now that presenter and their network, they know who the hell you are. There's so many other things that got involved in conferences. And I like this question. I might actually have I should probably do a live webinar just on this one topic. Really good question. Okay. We have one more question here. Can you share some guidelines on what to do on a demo call and what not to do? Also, some people suggest breaking up the demo and discovery call into 2 conversations. Thoughts? Okay, let's bring back the whiteboard for this one. All right. This is our last question for the day. So for those of you who are on LinkedIn, if you really want to ask me a question, go ahead and drop it in the comments. And for those who are watching on Zoom, any question, you have a question about interview, I don't care what it is, raise your hand up. Take advantage of this time. All right. Now, I'm gonna start by highlighting what makes a great salesperson. Okay, and I'm gonna for marketing purposes, I'm gonna put the $1,000,000 sales demo. Okay, so here's the key. Let's start with what is the purpose of the demo. The purpose of the demo is to what exactly? Anybody want to? Okay, I see some. Let me see. Get somebody into pipeline. Yes, specifically to see if there's interest. Okay. That being said, what the old way bad demo is all this time you spend all this time booking a meeting, then you have demo, and you have all this time for follow-up. This is where salespeople waste a lot of time. Okay. And it's tempting to do this because who's gonna blame you for having activity? It's like, oh, I have meetings. The best salespeople pick their shots. Okay. This is, in my opinion, the guideline of how you should do a demo, right? And how you should, so you want to try the best salespeople do, they take 3 or 4 meetings and they make it into one meeting. Okay. Now, that being said, it's hard to do that, especially now in the digital age. So what do you do? What you need to do is do things that are scalable. For example, let me do this in blue. Right? Number one, start with a personalized video. Okay. So most of your demos, I guarantee you, 90% of that demo is literally the same demo that every single other person has done. Okay. So what I recommend, actually, I'm going to change that real quick. What I recommend is record a 5-minute miniature demo. Okay. And you're not demoing the technology. Okay. That's the key to get somebody to pay attention. What people often go to is they go from problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and they just jump to product. No one cares. You need to start with the problem because that's how you attract somebody, right? Everything that you do as a buyer is based on solving a problem, right? Okay. So what I recommend is you start with this 5-minute demo, educating about the problem, right? And let me put this problem based, okay? Educating about the problem, right? And then 1 minute where it's solution based, okay? So you educate about the problem. It's like, hey, Dr. So-and-so, hope this finds you well. I wanted to tell you about XYZ problem, and I want to share how a company's solving it, but I want to explain how, like, why is it a big issue these days, right? Now you're educating. It's like, you have this issue, that issue. You start going down the line. For somebody who's actually, having a pain of that problem, it's going to get their attention because you're essentially hitting on key pain points that they're dealing with. Then you translate that into the solution, right? So for example, here's the problem with open surgeries. There's high infection rates. You have complications, you have this, you have that. And the whole point of that recorded video is that the person is saying, yes, yes, yes. Then you say, Well, let me show you how minimally invasive surgery has been better. It's because of these reasons, blah, blah, blah. Okay, right? Then if you want, you can transition to a very quick, like, hey, here's some hospitals and here's some doctors and what they've said about our product and why they love it. I'd love to set up a quick 5-10 minute call and answer some questions and see, is this really a fit for you, right? The reason why this is better, and this is what I was able to grow my pipeline with, is that this is scalable. You can knock out 10, 20 of these 5-minute personalized videos like that. And by the way, I do recommend personalizing them. Okay. Some people get lazy and they make one demo video and they just send it out to a bunch of people hoping that they're going to get something. You have to say the person's name. The moment they open that video, you need to say, hey, Dr. Smith, it's so nice to see you. Like, really focus on that person, because now they feel, oh, this is specifically made for me. They're going to watch it, right? Keep it under 5 minutes. From there should be an easy book now button. So you can see, did they watch it? And then there's a call to action. After that, you get on a quick 10-minute call. Okay? 10 minutes so you can have a discussion, right? And based on doing this process, which again, it's scalable, it's faster, and you're going to figure out really quickly who's interested and who's not, where you should focus on. That's where you focus on this demo. Okay? Now, some people would argue, oh, but Omar, you broke this demo up into 3 different parts. Kind of. Remember what I said earlier? The best salespeople take 3 meetings and put it into 1. In this process of getting the attention, getting this person interested and wanting to move forward, okay, right? And then getting them on a quick follow-up call. In that follow-up call, if they're getting on the call, they have an interest, right? What you have to find out in this call is what I did with every single one of my physicians. For those of you who saw that pipeline of mine where I had 35 deals in 60 days, every time I got a doctor on the call, the first thing I said is like, hey, it seems like you're interested in technology. Seems like it would be a great fit. I'd love to figure out how we get an evaluation going, right? Or in some of you guys might be doing a demo. I'd say, yeah, absolutely. My thing is, hey, doctor, I just want to let you know, for me to schedule that, it takes a lot of resources on my end. There's people that are involved, etc. So in order for that to happen, and so that I don't look bad to my company, like really be personal, put it on them, say, who needs to be in this meeting to make a decision to move it forward? You have to press them. So they'll say, oh, this person, this person, this person, those are the main people. And you have to ask again, okay, if we get these 3 people on this demo and everybody likes it, it can move forward. Is there any way that cannot happen? And that person and that doctor might say, yeah, actually, there's somebody who's part of, the chair of nursing or the chief nursing officer, they can really hold up. Okay, great. Well, then I can't do this demo until that person's there, because if we do this demo and you all like it, but then I have to go back to my company and say, oh no, there's one other decision maker we have to go do. Like I'm gonna get fired. Right? And you can joke like that. When you put your foot in the ground and really define with the physician, these are the parameters I need, right? Then you're able to have those kind of meetings. And as a salesperson, you have to guard your time. There's too many salespeople who, for example, get a meeting with somebody at Hopkins, right? Or Brigham. And they're so excited. Oh, I got somebody to meet with there. They don't want to press them too hard because they're afraid that they're going to turn the doctor off. Part of selling and persuasion is a principle of scarcity. So this is just like dating. You got to be willing to walk away from this, right? Because if you don't, you're going to waste a lot of company resources, including your time, preparing for a meeting that's not going to amount to anything, right? So that's what I highly recommend. Oh, and Mark has a question. So Mark says, to clarify, you're sending them a video with certain pain points they are most likely experiencing, then booking a live demo afterwards. Yes. So it depends on the product. Mark is a CTO or CIO or both. I think Mark is the chief technology officer. of a software company. So Mark, for you guys, because of the nature of your product, I would recommend going and more importantly, the contract value, right? You're not selling $1 million contract here. You guys are more on the scale side. I would move them into a demo. Yes, absolutely. But the larger the contract value, the more complicated the deal. That's where you want to get on a quick call to clarify, like, hey, who else needs to be in that meeting? And honestly, Mark, even if you're doing a simple demo and it's in your contract value is like, let's say less than 10K, I'd still do a quick follow-up call with them just to get information. I would blame some, fictional person in your company and say, hey, one of the people I report to, they require this process. Can we have a quick 5-minute call? I just want to make sure I go through a checklist of things with you based on who needs to be in that meeting, because we can only do this once, right? And some people they're going to push back, and they're going to be, and they might be really strict about the process. Like, no, we don't bring those people in until later. You have to find a way to get those people in, right? It doesn't always happen, but you have to at least try, right? You'd be surprised. I mean, for me, there have been very large academic centers, very powerful ones, that I was able to get a lot of like pretty respectable people on one call, mainly because I was probably one of the only salespeople who actually pushed for it, right? Most salespeople just bend at the slightest bit of pushback. It's like, no, that's gonna be real tough. You have to find a way around it. So that's what I recommend doing. Again, the most important thing about this timeline, speaking of timeline, I have to take my wife and son to the dentist shortly. The most important thing about this timeline is, how do you control it? The best salespeople get customers to adopt and buy on their timeline, not on the customer's timeline. So the best salespeople, in my opinion, in terms of those who pack pipeline, they get the customer to go through the demo and go through that salesperson's process. Because if it's up to the customer, their thing is gonna be like, yeah, let's book a demo here. It's like, oh, we're gonna reschedule and we're gonna do this. Oh, you got to go talk to this person, right? And the salesperson is tempted to do all of these things. Why? Because nobody's gonna fault a salesperson for having activity that's quote unquote supporting a deal. But for astute sales leaders, they see right through this BS and say, hey, you know what? You're wasting all this time and resources on this deal. It's not going anywhere. You've met with like 5 or 10 different people. Where the hell is this going? Your sales timeline has to be very clear and specific. And if you're dealing with a very large health system, the salesperson needs to figure out what's the buying timeline for that hospital. How do they work, right? And let's say it's this long, and there's all these steps involved. Okay, the salesperson has to look at that. First of all, get the information from the doctor and procurement, whoever else, to say, you know what, this is how that hospital buys. Okay, well, that's not going to fit our process perfectly. I think we can combine these meetings. I think we can combine this, right? Now you start, architecting the deal. And by the way, for salespeople, like, look, I don't know why you guys don't think about this. There are other people who are not competitive to you who've sold into this hospital. Find out who they are, hit them up on LinkedIn, and send them a message. Hey, can I get you on the phone? Can I get your help on this, right? And here's something else. Like, again, if you're selling $1 million capital equipment, or you're selling big deals, offer to pay that person's time. Just say, hey, look, I'm happy to pay you $200 for the hour. Can you please get on the phone with me? Can we walk through exactly how you sold your technology into that hospital? Because I'm trying to do the same thing on my end. You'll be amazed the amount of work somebody's willing to do the moment you offer to pay them, because nobody offers to do that. Okay. All right. So those are the main questions we got. Oh, and just as a reminder, okay, we're going to be doing our first deal rep, meaning that we're going to take a deal that's anonymous. We're not going to mention the rep name, the company, the product. We're going to make it as anonymous as possible, and we're going to rip the deal live. This is a great opportunity. So if you're a capital rep, so we're starting with capital equipment, okay? If you're in capital sales, right? Submit your deal anonymously. Just go to dealrip.com, submit it. We already have some submissions, and we're going to do a live show, just like ESPN Around the Horn, or I guess election night on CNN and Fox News. I'm going to invite a couple of really well-known sales execs, and we're going to rip the deal live. You'll learn a lot. So if you have a deal you want us to look at, go to dealrip.com and submit the deal anonymously. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's see. Do we have any questions? No. No over there. No over there. All right. Hey, short call today. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Go through this. Don't forget, for those who are in my program, go to the live recording, the past calls, and look at the BHAG call. I think it's called goal setting. So I want you to go look at that and really think that through. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful week.